Don't let them fool you,
Mr. Manager, you ready to start?
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. Let the records reflect that it is 7:04. Today is Tuesday, February 25th, 2014. It's the shortest month of the year. Welcome, all. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Steril. Vice Mayor Galvin.
Here.
Mayor Thundero.
Here.
Councilman Bieneme.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Keys.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We are going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We have Madame Kathleen Fardin from Miami-Dade College North Campus. She will lead us to the Pledge of Allegiance, and Ms. Barbara Boyce from the New Life Family Worship Center and Cathedral will do the invocation.
Good evening, Mayor, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the invocation.
Good evening, Mayor and the entire Council Board. My name is Pastor Boyce. I'm newly here in your area. I will be an asset to the community. I'm glad to be a part of North Miami. Amen. Will you bow your heads? Heavenly Father, we thank you. We glorify you this afternoon. We come together this afternoon, Father, and we've been planning and deciding what is best for your community. Now, Father, I ask right now that you bless this council meeting today. Bless each and every one of them that plan and put everything together to make this city run perfectly with all the visions and all the ideas. Father, stand up for them. In the mighty name of Jesus, bless them as they go, Father. Find favor with them, Father, that they will run this city just like you want it to be run. And we'll give you praise, and we thank you for it right now. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Boyce. Mr. Manager, any addition, deletion to the agenda?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We respectfully present the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. We do have special presentation tonight. Yes, we do. Please join me, council members and Mr. Clerk. Okay, thank you. One is a recognition, the other one is an acknowledgement. The special recognition today goes to Maxime Silien, that we all know under the name of Tien, from Good Morning Haiti Radio. Mr. Tien, come forward, please. It says, come here, in recognition of your continued support in providing North Miami residents news, current events, and information on services offered in the city. Your participation in events such as Youth Enrollment Day on February 15, 2014 is greatly appreciated. Presented this 25th day of February 2014 to you.
Thank you.
Tete is always here, always here. The person that I would like to congratulate tonight is Mr. Harold Desdunes, who is the Florida Department of Transportation District 6 Director of Transportation. He was recently given the Outstanding Service to the Engineering Professional Award by the Florida Engineering Study. Mr. Harold Desdunes, félicitations, congratulations. I'd like to recognize our commissioner who just walked in, Monsieur Jean Monestime. So there was a banquet last Saturday, and Mr. Desdunes was recognized, and I think it's a very, from what I understand, it's a very particular award. It is with great pleasure that he is from our district, the District 6, that he is the one who has received, is the recipient of that award, and I'm so proud that he's also here tonight. Maybe we're going to give him a headache, but I'm glad that he's here. Thank you, Mr. Desdunes. That's it, thank you. Okay. I'd like to recognize the presence of former Mayor John Stembridge as well. Mr. Mayor, hi. Mr. Manager, any city events?
Yes, we're going to invite Pam Solomon up to come up and give our city announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and all of our guests here with us in the council chambers and live on NoMi TV 77 and on the web. We'd like to share with you a few of our events wrapping up the month of February. It is the shortest month of the year, but we have packed in a ton of events. And we'd like to invite you to our Family Night at the Library event. It's in celebration of Black History Month. Tomorrow evening, which is Wednesday, February 26th at 6 p.m. It's at the North Miami Public Library, 835 Northeast 132nd Street. We invite you to bring the entire family. We have an evening of music, storytelling. We will also be unveiling the Peace Flags in the Wind exhibit, which was composed by artist J.L. Vasile, along with the teens from the Museum of Contemporary Arts programs, the teen programs. And that exhibit, after it's on view at the library, will travel to the Rosa Parks Museum in Montgomery, Alabama. So it is part of our reflection on civil rights, on peaceful movements, here in the city of North Miami, and our teens will be adding their flags that they put together to that exhibit, and then it will go on to the Rosa Parks Museum. So we are dedicating that at our ceremony that evening, as well as we have a performance by storyteller Baba Adekemi Lyons. He's participated in several of our events at the North Miami Public Library, and he always entertains the families. So please come out. There will be a free book given to each family, provided by the Friends of the North Miami Public Library. And for more information, we invite you to contact the library at 305-891-5535. The next evening, Thursday, February 27th, also at 6 p.m., we have our Black History Month Networking for a Cause event. The City of North Miami's Black History Month Committee has put this event together along with our host, Johnson & Wales University. to provide a venue to raise funds for a scholarship for a high school senior that attends North Miami Senior High or Alonzo and Tracy Morning Senior High School and is also a resident of the city of North Miami. So we will be giving that information out to the schools to apply for that scholarship. This will be our fundraising evening on Thursday evening. There is a $20 donation at the door to support this event. And for more details, you can contact the Office of the City Manager at 305-893-6511, extension 12106. And of course, all of the information that I'm sharing with you this evening is available on our website at northmiamifl.gov/celebrate. This Friday is the last Friday of the month, and that means it's Jazz at Mocha. This month we are featuring Bra Soul at 8 p.m. It's a free concert here at the Mocha Plaza right next door to North Miami City Hall. And Bra Soul is a collaboration project for the love of Brazilian music, blending songs from Gilberto Gil, Bob Marley, and Michael Jackson with capoeira chants and sounds. So it's a very unique sound. We invite you to this free concert. Mocha's galleries are also open by donation that evening. Of course, if you're a North Miami resident, you always enjoy free Mocha membership. So please join us to catch the current exhibit, Tracy Emin, Angel Without You, which is on view only through March 9th. For more information, you can visit Mocha's website at www.mochanomi, that's MOCANOMI.org. This Sunday, we have our NoMi Musical Night series, and we are presenting a very special production, Paris en Thème. It's a production by a French production group that's traveling to South Florida, and they're called De Temps en Temps. It will take place this Sunday, March 2nd at 3 p.m. That's the show time, and it's at North Miami Senior High School's auditorium, 13110 Northeast 8th Avenue. We do have complimentary tickets available to the community for this production, and we invite you to stop by the Office of the Mayor and Council. And actually, Katia is here this evening. We do have tickets available. If you'd like tickets to come out to that production this Sunday, please see Katia or myself, and we can sign the tickets out to you. We do want to enjoy a full packed house and show them a warm North Miami welcome as we enjoy the Temps en Temps production. So for more details, if you're watching at home, you can contact us at 305-895-9815. And next Friday, March 7th, Mayor Tondreau, along with the City of North Miami CRA, Miami-Dade County Commissioner Jean Monesteem, Olita Partners, and a host of several agencies that are participating, we're hosting a community information fair at the Joe Celestine Community Center, 1525 Northwest 135th Street. That will take place from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Once again, Friday, March 7th. Information will be provided on several topics, including healthcare.gov, signing on to health coverage because the deadline is March 31st for health insurance coverage. We have city tables on housing, employee, job opportunities, free income tax preparations by the AARP Tax Aid and the IRS VITA program, citizenship clinics, job training, education, all types of opportunities. So please visit us at the 2014 Community Information Fair, Friday, March 7th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Joe Celestine Center. Once again, our information is online at northmiamifl.gov/celebrate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Salomon.
Thank you.
A citizen forum is now open.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Annie Montgomery, 2082 Laurel Lane. Is this on? Yeah. I left my house at 10 minutes to 7 this evening, and our garbage was still out front since last night. Just wanted to let the council know that our garbage cans were still out front full at 7 o'clock this evening. Thank you.
Mr. Manager, for pickup?
I don't know if that's bulk pickup or regular pickup, but I will have
The mic is
our, I don't know if that's bulk or regular. We will,
It happened
Follow up.
yesterday as well in my
Okay.
streets.
okay.
Regular pickup.
We will resolve.
Hmm?
We will resolve.
It was
For-
late at night when the trucks start
Yes.
going around the neighborhood.
Any problem with the company?
Mr. Ghani just informed me that there is a slight delay that he's working with them, with the company on. So we will, I'll find out what the issue is and work that out immediately, first thing tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
I would like to make sure that there is a follow-up on this, and we need to understand why have they not been picking up garbage on schedule. Councilwoman Sterrill just mentioned it happened in her neighborhood yesterday, although I didn't have an issue. They pick up the garbage at the same time as usual yesterday on my street. But if it's happening elsewhere in the city, we need to sit down with them and understand why is it happening, because 7 p.m., that's unacceptable. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, for my 2 minutes, I'd like to, if I may, touch upon Biscayne Landing. And the reason being is that a number of months have gone by, and I become a little bit anxious regarding it. We've had a history of presentations which take advantage of certain things. And though I've spoken to our friends over at Oleta Partners, and they assure us that, yes, things will be more to our, say, liking, and by that I mean a little bit better for our city and for the residents that'll be there, I just want to make sure that everybody had a copy of what had been presented back in May, and I wanted to finally give public light to a plan that does show Biscayne Landing as a possibility, that Biscayne Landing does have the potential to have large central community space that could be a pride of North Miami, that we can, in fact, provide housing that has not just views and not look into building to building, but has guaranteed distant views from over rooftops, over tree lines, that retail can be sustained in that area and backed up against existing retail, that it can be easily policed, and that it's not just residual spaces and leftover, that we get the best use of this space for both the citizens of North Miami as well as for the developers, and that you do have this outline. And I do hope that when Oleta Partners comes back, returns to us, that they have, whether it's this plan or not, this or better, and nothing less than this, that provides the amenities that this has. And in your package, there are 8 pages of criteria, a couple dozen points to take into consideration of how things can be executed in a smooth fashion, so it'll be easier to approve of this in the long run. It'll be easier for the developers to be able to get their approvals, because everyone will know what the direction is. We'll be on the same path. And if we can keep this in mind as the presentation comes at some point in the future, it would be greatly appreciated and to the benefit of our citizens. Thank you.
Good timing. Citizen Forum is now closed. Do I hear a motion for consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Anyone wishes to record a no? Thank you. Mr.
Tab E, proposed resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, adopting a revised classification and pay plan for classified and unclassified employees of the city for the 2013-2014 fiscal year budget, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes.
Thank you. Public hearing is now open on type E. Public hearing is now closed. Mr. Manager?
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution adopting the revised classification and pay plan. We have positions such as director that have now been changed to the position of manager. Manager was once as a title that was classified in the civil service. Now that title becomes unclassified. We also have Manager 1, which will be in the classified pay plan that will report to a manager or a department director. So these positions would normally be in our budget. However, because the employee retirement incentive plan took place afterwards, and we're modifying and restructuring, these classifications and name changes are coming as we move forward.
I forgot to ask if there was a motion for tab E. Is there a motion on tab E? I'm sorry. Well, I'm going to have to move it. Any second on tab E? I guess, Mr. Manager.
Tab E fails for lack of a second.
If it fails, then we would have to revert back to what we existingly have, or I would have to present it at a later date, and I can inform the council what the fiscal impact could be.
Mr. Clerk.
Tab F. Okay, item E fails because of a lack of a second. Tab F. Proposed resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, supporting the Florida Department of Transportation recommended traffic rerouting and roadway improvement project along portions of West Dixie Highway, Northeast 6th Avenue, and Northeast 125th Street, further authorizing the city manager and city attorney to execute the off-system construction and maintenance agreement in substantially the attached form between the city of North Miami and the state of Florida Department of Transportation to delineate the responsibility for the construction and maintenance of project roadway improvements, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes.
Public hearing is open on tab F.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. John Stembridge, former mayor. You've received communique from me, and you've heard from many of the other people within the city, the board of the Greater North Miami Chamber of Commerce, that is opposed to this proposal of FDOT. And I would just like to say that the mantra from the very beginning when they first came to the board of the Greater North Miami Chamber has been safety. But if all of you read Deborah Mitchell's letter, it did everything but provide safety. There were accidents galore, traffic backed up when they rerouted West Dixie from northbound to 123rd, turning into Northeast 6th Avenue, 124th Street. She said there were people taking their lives into their own hands. To implement safety, one does not have to close major commercial thoroughfares within one city. It can be implemented simply through enforcement of speed, proper signage, and markings. And if they want to divert traffic from other venues before they ever get to 125th Street, that's within their prerogative. But it doesn't have to be implemented with the closing of major commercial thoroughfares. Number 3, keep in mind that FDOT does not pay any of the taxes to this city or help pay any of the bills that this city incurs. But every one of those merchants that were put out of business when they closed down northbound West Dixie, they helped supply jobs for families. Maybe 100 or more people or families were helped with that. And the same potential when you close down southbound West Dixie at 125th and reroute, the people, it will do the same thing. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
I'm not a real speaker, so I'll just try to tell you my thoughts on it. Again, what they said from FDOT is that safety is driving this bus. So,
Could you please give your name and
sorry,
address
I'm Al
for the-
Brenner, and I'm the owner of the Bible Emporium, so I'm right down the street.
Address, please.
If you notice
Address.
where one,
Your
It's your
address for
first
the
time. I'm
record.
sorry. Nobody told them. You need to introduce yourself, your name and address, and then you start speaking.
564 Northeast 125th Street.
Thank you.
Right there, right where we're talking about. So if it's safety is the matter, as you look at 125th Street, you'll see that it's really lit up really well. If you go into the neighborhoods that they're going to be diverting the traffic into, it's not very lit up. There's two things here. The 125th Street has the businesses, and they want the cars to drive by. The neighborhood does not have business, and they don't want the cars to drive by. So it's kind of strange that FDOT would say, we want to put the cars in the neighborhood where they don't need them, and we don't have the proper lighting. And we don't want to put them on 125th Street for the businesses where we do have proper lighting. A couple weeks ago, I was here at a meeting, and somebody says, there was somebody in the middle of 125th Street in a wheelchair. That probably did happen. I just have to tell you, the person in that wheelchair did not live on 125th Street. They lived in the neighborhood that doesn't have good lighting. So let's take the cars and divert them into the neighborhood with no lighting where that person is on their way home, along with all the other children and all the other people that live in neighborhoods. You put the traffic where the business is, and you keep the traffic out of the neighborhoods. That's a very simple thing. I know that in 3 minutes, I can hardly tell you how to make a decision on something that somebody has been working on for years. And I'm not going to. It's all selfish for me. I love North Miami. I want it to be the coolest, the best. My partner found his wife 1 block away from my store. I ate at Zeman's restaurant 37 years ago here.
Thank you.
So I love North Miami. I'm selfish. I want it to thrive. I want the cars where they should be to take care of business. I want the neighborhood safe. Thank you very much. Sorry I didn't know the correct protocol, but thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks for
Councilman.
coming.
Thank you.
Public hearings now closed. Do I hear a motion for item?
I'd move that we reject the proposal from Florida Department of Transportation.
If you didn't move it, it would fail.
Okay, then I withdraw my motion to reject, and we'll see if it just gets motioned to.
Okay. Mr. Didjun, tell us if we remove this motion, if the city does not agree with the proposal of FDOT, what would happen? Is the state going to do its streets regardless?
Okay, Harold Desnoons, Director of Transportation Development. What we're going to have to do is, this option was developed with input. The initial option we had on the table, it didn't require any city streets. So if this motion fails, we're going to have to evaluate changing design where we wouldn't need any city streets to reroute traffic. That option would be still back on the table because we cannot ignore safety. The accidents are increasing continuously. Even with the red light running cameras that are at that intersection, it's not getting any better. So just think about it. Those crashes, the amount of people you're impacting mothers, fathers, children, cousins, uncles. Those dollars that are spent in repairing their vehicles, the dollars that are being spent taking people to the hospital, the dollars that are being spent with missing work, those dollars could be spent in North Miami in the stores rather than with doctors and hospitals and missed time. So we've been looking at this for 27 years. As I mentioned, when I started working at the department, this project was ongoing. Mm-hmm. We tweaked it, put signs, the city put on red light cameras. It didn't resolve the concern that we have here. The department feels that this solution that's here that we propose is the best solution for the city of North Miami to help it grow. So everyone can be proud of a place to play, work, and work for a living.
Thank you. I am with you, and I do understand. I understood the plan from the get-go. I've been an advocate of the project of FDOT because it's a good one. It's for the betterness of the city. And although we have had Councilman Galvin the other day out there to go and see for itself, Councilwoman Keys was there before that, and they understood it. But if they don't want it, there is not much that I can do. It is very unfortunate. It is sad. Today is a sad day for the city to see that a project that would alleviate the type of traffic that we're having here. Anybody who goes there during rush hour can see with their own eyes what's happening in that corner. I am so sorry, but it is what it is.
I understand.
Thank you. Now mind it.
G.
Mr. Clerk.
Okay, just so for the record, we didn't have a motion and or a second regarding tab F, so that item fails for lack of motion and lack of second. Tab G, proposed resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, authorizing the city manager to execute a settlement agreement in substantially the attached form arising out of a petition for writ of certiorari styled as the City of North Miami versus Miami-Dade County Environmental Quality Control Board and Olita Partners, LLC, case number 13-432 AP, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes.
Public hearing is now open on tab H. Public hearing is now closed. Who's saying excuse me? You all the way in the back.
I apologize, Mayor, I'm not fast enough.
Let us recognize former Mayor Frank Wolin as well. Hi, Frank.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Frank Woland. I live on Banyan Road, and my office is located at 12865 West Dixie Highway. I am here once again to address this particular situation, which concerns the material. I don't think you can really call it soil, but it is the waste material from the Brickell Center site that the developers of Biscayne Landing dumped on our Biscayne Landing site. When I say our Biscayne Landing site, I mean the city's Biscayne Landing site, because even though the developer has a lease, we all know from our previous experiences, sometimes those leases are short-lived, and it's our land. And we have a responsibility to the health, safety, and welfare. You have a responsibility to the health, safety, and welfare of the people of North Miami and the people who are going to live on that site, not just for the next 30 years, but for the next, as long as people live there, which as far as I know could be a long, long time. This material does not go away. It is the aluminum and the groundwater. We've discussed that. You discussed it in December. You discussed it previously, and I'm not going to repeat the discussions about it. My particular concern this evening is the silica sand. It's actually not sand, it's silica, and I stand to be corrected by any expert or anyone else who cares to address the issue. This material and what was submitted to DERM, and it was in the DERM materials, is a fact sheet about what makes up 30% of the material. So if there's 194,000 yards, about 60,000 cubic yards of that material is Hansen slag cement. This is actually a blast furnace slag, which is combined with very fine particles of silica sand in order to use as a lubricant, so that when they're drilling down...
Mr. Woolen, we have our own experts here, and they can, I would suggest, if you have any comment to do regarding this item, not to go into scientifics because the scientist is here, the independent scientist that conducted the study on the land. So I would not go into scientifics if I were you. I would rather stay on what you believe is good, what's not good, instead of going into sciences.
Mayor, I appreciate that, but I'm concerned because, frankly, I've consulted other scientists. Scientists have different opinions, and I think it's fair of this commission to listen to everyone's opinion. And I'm sure it's true that I am not a scientist, and I don't pretend to be. But I've done a bit of research, and I think that the council might benefit from hearing about a little bit of the research that I have done, and also the research that Durham did. Because, frankly, the circumstances of how this material got to the site in the first place, and how it is that Durham stood up and advocated for the developer to be able to leave the material on the site, because the developer was at the time threatening to sue Durham, is a little bit of an interesting commentary about how things can sometimes get turned on their head. So respectfully, Mayor, I'll make my comments for the record.
Go ahead.
For whatever they're worth, and I appreciate your giving me the extra time to do that. I think you all know I've spent a lot of time trying to do this, and I'll do the best that I can. Unfortunately, the health effects, and I'm reading from the Durham handout that was included in the Durham materials for the Environmental Quality Control Board. It says, prolonged or repeated exposure can cause lung injury, including silicosis. The product may contain crystalline silica. Crystalline silica has been classified by IARC as a known human carcinogen. And it goes on to talk about silicosis. In many respects, this material is similar to asbestos, and what people get when they work around asbestos is, asbestos disease, and the reason is because the asbestos does not break down in your lungs, it just stays there. These tiny particles, because it's a lubricant, it's so small and so fine, blows around in the dust, it's a lubricant. Whether you bury it in the water, whether you bury it under a road, and they dig up the road 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 50 years from now, that material is going to be out there, and it's not going to be changed by having sat under the ground for 20 or 30 or 50 or however many years. So at some point in the time, people are going to have to deal with it. Now, if I was sitting up there, I would insist that the attorney include a provision in the settlement agreement that if there are health effects, if there are people who sue the city because they get silicosis or cancer, now and for the rest of time, that the developer and his assigns would be responsible and would indemnify and hold the city harmless. And at your last meeting, you heard me recommend very strongly that as a condition of the settlement, you require the developer to increase the amount of the environmental liability insurance that they carry on the project. I don't know if that's in your agreement or not. I'm afraid it's not. But I'm concerned. I'm concerned about the liability of the future. You read the paper. You read now the city of Miami is paying millions of dollars to clean up their parks, right? And they're testing all their parks, and they're finding all this stuff underground. And what's kind of funny is that's going to happen in North Miami when I'm dead and buried for 50 years. They're going to be digging this stuff up, and people are going to be getting sick, and it's going to cost the city, in those dollars, $20 million to dig it all up and to get rid of it. Because and they're going to, how could they have allowed this here? But that's what you're doing. And not only that, you're doing it for $1 million, which is pretty small change when you consider the potential hazard to public health. And I'm not a scientist. I'll be happy to bring a scientist here. And I've got, if you're willing to give me the time, I'll show you the photographs, the OSHA materials, the OSHA fact sheet. I'll give them into the record, okay? Because, once again, this is very serious stuff. This agreement, for 4 years I was a city clerk, and I watched the developer prepare agreements, and Mayor Burns nod his head like a bobblehead to agreements that I just couldn't believe the city council was agreeing to, because they didn't have enough protection for the city. this agreement doesn't have enough protection. If you're going to do this, if you're going to permit the material to stay on the site, at least go through the agreement, prepare enough protection so that the city will be indemnified by the developer for the consequences of what you're doing. You can't buy this kind of risk for $1 million. This is a very bad sellout. I've taken enough time, and I appreciate your giving me the time. If my materials arise, I will try to speak again very briefly, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name's William Simpson, 2005 Alamanda Drive. I'd just like to say I disagree with Mr. Wallen. I don't think that there should be any kind of settlement. I think we need to have the property cleaned up once and for all. This property has been a problem for years with hazardous materials. I think it needs to be dealt with now. I think we'll pay the big costs down the line. I realize that the current mayor and council won't be here then, but we as taxpayers will pay for the thing, and it won't be just the people on the east side or the central, it'll be the whole city. Now, I would like to say one more thing. What Mr. Wallen said is true. You look at City of Miami now, they're dealing with it. What I can tell you is I have a personal experience with this. My father suffered and died from mesothelioma that he incurred when he was in the Navy from asbestos. And you do pay the cost down the line. So it would behoove y'all, just let them clean up. Listen, we got a bill of goods that we didn't agree for. Return it to them, just like you do at the grocery store, the department store. It's not what we wanted. We didn't get what we wanted. Send it back. It's a defective item. Thank you.
Yes, good evening again. William Prevotel, 11950 North Bayshore Drive. I am somewhat in sympathy with the last two speakers, and now hearing of the dollar amount, $1 million, it is a little bit perplexing and maybe not quite equitable in the fact that if one were in fact to require this fill to be removed, it would be far in excess of $1 million, far in excess to remove it, to do it safely, and then to get replacement fill for that. We're probably talking multi-millions of dollars, and therefore this is a case where crime has paid. I don't think we want to reward that. I don't think we want to reward what has happened in the past time and time again with their presentations. I don't mean to be so damning to them, but I really wish that they would come to us in better faith with a better presentation rather than always trying to get away with something, because this is going to continue to happen, and it'll be about wages, or it'll be about the plan, or it'll be about usage, or it'll be about some other problem down the line. And they're going to try to get away with something, and again, we'll cave into it, and it'll be a fraction of what it's actually due. My bottom line is I ask you to, in considering this vote, that before you vote positive for it in support of it, that you are sure that this plan is going ahead to the best of your knowledge, that you are very sure that this is going to be a great plan for the people of North Miami, that this is going to be safe, that it's going to be the right thing for the city and the citizens. And if not, then please postpone it or deny it so that things can be worked out. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Okay.
Mayor, council members, my name is Stuart Kornblum, live on Maple Road. I urge you not to go ahead with this project. Remove the pollutants. That area, which we have been fighting for years, has been a hazardous waste dump. We have spent millions of dollars cleaning up the area. To bring contaminated soil onto the property is wrong. We know it's wrong. There is no way to encapsulate it or protect it. We are just adding to an already bad situation by adding more hazardous waste, which is what this material is, to this site. The pollutants will be dug up. They will wash into the bay. They will leak into the aquifer. there is no reason for us to pollute our city. We are authorizing, by passing this piece of legislation, we are authorizing them to pollute our city. How can you do that? How can the council say it is okay to bring in pollutants and put them in our ground?
Thank you. Madam Attorney, I understand we have two experts here. One expert. I would like to hear from the scientists who conducted the study on the
Dr. Teef?
Yeah, he represents us. He's the independent scientist that we hire to go on the field.
That is correct, Mayor. I'll allow him to introduce himself and
Good evening,
give
sir.
a brief presentation.
Mayor Tondreau and council members, thank you for the chance to speak this evening. I know there have been some impassioned remarks prior to mine. I'm going to stay inside my area of toxicology and health risk assessment. I won't speak to any of the legal issues. It's clearly far beyond my area. My name is Dr. Christopher Teef. I'm a human health toxicologist with over 30 years experience in the evaluation of environmental and occupational health risk issues, environmental behavior of chemicals, many of which are subjects that are under discussion now. I presently serve as Director of Toxicology for Hazardous Substance and Waste Management Research, Tallahassee, Florida, and I'm the Associate Director of the Center for Biomedical and Toxicological Research at Florida State University. My purpose this evening is specifically to address decisions about the fill material that was referred to at the Biscayne landing site. I was asked by the city to review the historical information, the sampling results, the analytical data, and the decisions regarding the use of that fill, particularly to review whether requirements that were imposed in a July 17, 2013 letter by Miami-Dade County Department of Regulatory and Economic Resources protect human health and the environment. In my professional opinion, those requirements and the options that are controlled by future requirements that are in your power to enforce are protective. That was my only job. My only job is to look at the data, not impose my emotional views on it, but only to look at the data. The settlement stipulation, the resolution, and the associated documents provide appropriate assurance that environmental quality and human health are protected for several reasons. First, the substance of interest in this discussion, at least when I arrived here this evening, aluminum, does not cause health effects related to soil exposure unless very high levels are reached. For example, the highest aluminum concentration that was detected in any of the samples collected by DERM or by SCS engineers is about 5 times less than the levels that are considered to be safe, not dangerous, but safe, by the Department of Environmental Protection, by DERM, and most other organizations of similar background. Those concentrations are judged to be safe based on daily exposure by oral, dermal, and inhalation exposure, ingestion, skin contact, and inhalation for 30 years, for lengthy periods of time, daily. So it's not just the numbers look okay, they seem fine to us. There's a very solid basis for those decisions. Second, the primary consideration identified by Miami-Dade County, the possibility to leach aluminum from soils to the underlying groundwater, is addressed by the requirement that soils be used only under impervious surfaces, roadways, buildings, parking lots, that type of thing, that don't allow percolation of rainwater through the soils to leach those materials. Third, fill will only occur in areas in the existing Phase 1 groundwater treatment system. It's not to be used elsewhere until the Phase 2 system, if it is constructed, is constructed. Finally, future fill that may be brought to the site must meet Miami-Dade County and Florida DEP clean fill requirements. In summary, the specifics in the settlement stipulation, the associated documents, the resolution, provide appropriate precautions to guide the safe use of these materials. I thank you, and I look forward to questions that you may have. And I would say, in response to the previous comments about silica, that it is true, and I believe that the gentleman was reading from a material safety data sheet for the what's called the cement grout. It does have silica in it. The largest exposure to silica that people in Dade County, City of North Miami, most of the east coast of Florida will get is from the beach. Those material safety data sheets are specifically written for occupational exposure considerations, for day in and day out exposures to inhalation. To cite a material safety data sheet as a concern about silica is warranted in the proper circumstances, but that's not these. If there are questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or I'll come back if there are questions later.
Thank you. Any member of the council has a question? If not, I'm going to ask, Madam Attorney, you do have the attorney who have filed a lawsuit against the Olida partners. I would like for him to come forward, please.
Mayor, could I ask one question?
1 second. Yes.
Mr. Al Malafato.
Okay.
I'll allow him to introduce himself and present to council.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. My name is Al Malafato. I'm with the law firm of Lewis, Longman & Walker, and I've been retained to represent the city in this matter, and I recommended to the city that they hire Dr. Teef, and you've just heard his conclusions.
My question to you, sir, was...
Yes, ma'am.
What was the lawsuit for?
We filed an appeal of the variance that was filed by Olida Partners in order to use the fill material in the lakes. And so as a result of the appeal we filed, that's been halted for now, along with the order that came from the city. But in the interim, we have been trying to resolve that issue, working with Olida Partners, working with your city attorney and the city manager. And I believe, worked long and hard to represent the city's interests here and to protect the city's interests. I'd like to comment on something the gentleman was talking about indemnification. In the settlement agreement, in paragraph 6A, we specifically inserted a clause that says, and I'll read it, this is paragraph 6A, subparagraph D. And this is a release provision that goes to the other side, releasing them from liability, except Olida's obligation, their obligation to indemnify the city as set forth in Section 10 of the lease agreement, said indemnification to include any claims brought against the city arising from or as a result of Olida's use of the fill on the premises. So if they use the fill on the premises and someone, God forbid, should get sick and bring a claim against the city, it's up to Olida to take care of that problem. So we do have the indemnification, the very indemnification that he was suggesting we should have. It's in the agreement already.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. If no one here has any questions for the attorney?
I would have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
If in 20 years from now the city is sued and Olida Partners is no longer our tenant, do we have the absolute right to have the next tenant indemnify us? And if our tenant really is a shell corporation, what good is that indemnification?
Well, you have a 30-year lease with the city?
A 99-year lease.
200-year lease.
It's a 200.
So it's a 99-year lease with the renewal.
With the option to renew for another 99.
So whoever the successors are under the lease would be responsible for that, yes.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. In case that nobody wants this item to go through, and we were to ask Olida Partners to remove the soil, what would happen to the appeal that the city have done against them for applying for the variance?
Well, we'd have to continue the appeal, through the circuit court, the appellate level, and we'd have to argue the case there, and to the best way possible.
Yeah.
I have another question.
Sure.
Which I had all along. We've appealed Olida's right to be the applicant for the variance, to put the fill in the lakes. Olida has said they're no longer going to put the fill in the lakes. They want to use it in the spine road. So where does that leave us with our appeal? If we're appealing a variance and the variance is really moot because they're not going to put the fill in the lakes. The Durham gave a couple other options to use the fill, which were the spine road, but that did not need a variance. So why are we proceeding with this variance anyway?
Well, they haven't.
This appeal from a variance that they're not asking for anymore.
Well, they haven't formally withdrawn the variance yet, first of all. Secondly, at the time, they were at the time we filed the appeal, they were still looking to use the material in the lakes, which is why we filed the appeal.
But at this point, supposedly they are not. They're not going to be doing that. So should we be spending that much time dealing with appealing a variance that nobody wants?
Well, they haven't formally, I'm sorry,
Go ahead,
Mr. Al, they haven't formally made that statement. So we're operating from the documents that have been filed by OLEDA, which is the variance.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I think Mr. Wolin has you had a question for the scientist.
I had one question for the scientist and one comment for the attorney, if I may.
Make
Madam
it
Mayor.
quick, sir.
Okay. My question for the scientist is whether or not there's been any air monitoring with regard to the silica, and whether or not it isn't so that, except for one sentence, the report that you did concentrates on the aluminum and does not discuss silicosis. That was my question for the scientist. My comment for the attorney, Your Honor, is that my reading of the agreement itself, it seems to be a little different, and I think that Mrs. Keys seems to be on point. In fact, what it says at paragraph 18 is that no party shall transfer or assign any of its rights, remedies, or obligations without the prior written consent of the non-transferring assigning party, ... So my concern is this only binds them when they transfer the property or their obligations. Instead of having a covenant running with the land which binds all the successors, they've got something that only binds them. And when they're gone and the problem remains, it's there, and they don't have to say anything because that was in there. And so that, to me, it's weak. It should be an obligation to make sure all the successors and assigns, not only should they indemnify the city from any health risks, but if we have to clean it up 50 years down the road because somebody wakes up and people are getting sick, then they should pay for that. Or the person who's in their shoes, their successor, should pay for that. That's what this should say, and it doesn't say it as far as I can read, but maybe the attorney has something in here that I don't know about. Thank you.
I'm not aware of any air sampling that's been done so far. It would be straightforward to do it, but I'm not aware of any. At the time that I prepared my report, the issue of silica had not been raised. Had it been raised, I would have said exactly what I said this evening, which is that silica has circumstances under which it is considered to be a health hazard. Those don't relate to the ones that we're discussing here this evening.
Thank you.
The provision I had, Madam Mayor, Member Council, again for the record, Al Malafato, the provision I had referred to was basically an extension of the indemnification that's already existing in the lease. And I believe if there are successors that take the property, they would be taking it subject to the lease. So I think the indemnification would still apply. So sometimes attorneys disagree, and this may be one of those cases.
Thank you. So if public hearing is now closed. Right. We're gonna spend the entire. We need to put a stop to this. We need to move on, Mr. Wolin. Please help me. Help me here.
30 seconds.
Help me here, Frank.
30
Please.
seconds.
Help me here, dear. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to let Bill speak. And now Joe just walked in. He's gonna want to speak to you. We're not gonna get over this. We need to move on. We really need to do it. Public hearing. What?
You may not be able to get someone to assign it to. Someone may stay away from the property completely.
No, I was just going to try to sum up what I'm hearing here tonight. If I understand correctly, it's like no amount of money is good to replace people's health. I'm trying to sum up what I'm hearing from the audience, which means most of you that are here tonight are here to say that you want that soil to be totally removed and have them bring some clean soil to do the spine road. Am I reading people right?
Yes.
Is that what you guys are saying?
Yes.
I just want to make sure that I'm understanding what you're saying, what you want.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. It was only a question. I just wanted to make sure that what you guys are saying, that's what I'm hearing. Thank you.
Or bond it for more.
Huh?
Or bond it for 10, 20 million.
I hear you.
The money would be there.
Okay. Anyone has any comments? Motion, Mr. Galvin? Madam Keys? Councilwoman Steril?
I make a
Do I hear a second? To move what?
I make a motion to move the resolution.
To move the resolution, okay.
To approve it.
She moves it. I'll second with you, once it is mine. Any discussion? Madam Keys?
The only discussion I have on this settlement agreement is that I wish that it had been kept as in the original form. The settlement agreement is a settlement not only for $1 million to release a suit, but it's also to allow the developer to keep the fill on the property. A duck is a duck, and breaking it down into two parts doesn't make any sense to me.
Are you making an amendment to my motion?
No, I can't make an amendment because it's two parts. The only amendment would be to combine the two items, which I don't think is something.
You can if you want to.
Well, it was my idea to put them separate. And the city attorney did tell me that it was not two separate things, and I insisted. And see, I'm gonna say it. It's me. I wanted to have two separate things for the simple and good reason. I was under the impression that Olita Partners have said that they were going to settle for the $1 million under the condition that we let them use the soil, the contaminated soil, for the Spine Road.
That's correct.
And my thing in it is they cannot put conditions because they're the one at fault. We the one settling with them. If there's any condition that has to be made, the city has to come up with their condition, not Olita Partners to come up with his condition.
No,
that was my reasoning on that.
Madam Mayor, as
Yes.
the maker of the motion, are you trying to make an amendment to my motion, Madam?
Not really. No, I'm just saying I wish it had been one item that we could have discussed, because agreeing to this settlement, if we say yes to one and no to the other, then I don't believe that Alita is really going to agree to the settlement. This settlement is, we agree to dismiss a lawsuit and we agree to keep the soil on the
You say we.
property.
May I
City.
have Mr. Tillman? Because for me, there are two entities. One's for using our name without our, this is why we took them to court.
But are they going to agree to the settlement if we, in 2 minutes later, tell them to remove the soil? I don't think so.
Of course not. Council, Madam Mayor, how are you this evening?
Good. Madam Keys has a question for you.
Yes, Councilman.
If we agree to this settlement to cancel the lawsuit in exchange for $1 million, and then we now discuss the next motion, and it is decided that we want you to remove the fill, will you still enter into the $1 million settlement agreement?
That would all be a discussion amongst the developer.
No thoughts on your own?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just wanted to know. Because for me, those are two separate things. I don't see why they can, I don't know why.
They can be, it just, they really belong together. It's the same item.
What makes it the same?
Because I think it's going to be moot if we agree to take $1 million. Our developer tenant is not going to give us.
Then we continue the lawsuit. Because the lawsuit was not for them to do anything but using our names to ask for a variance without our consent.
True, but why are we voting on something that is in 5 minutes if we agree to let them keep the.
They want to settle out of court. They want to settle with us.
If we agree.
This is why the $1 million is for.
Okay, but if we agree to allow them to keep the soil, there will be no more. There'll be no more suit anyway. We're going to have to vote yes on both of these this evening for them both to take effect.
Madam.
Let me ask
Madam
one. Give me 1 second,
Okay.
Mr. Bien-Aimé. Let me ask the scientist a question. Come, sir, could you please come forward again? I have another question. Using that soil to make the road, how much of effect can it have on has on people's health?
The requirements stipulate specifically that it be used under impervious surface. It'll be used as road base and underlayment for the road. It will have no direct contact potential.
Okay, because I understand Mr. Wallen just made a point earlier talking about the parks of the city, in the city of Miami, where they have to dig because there was some contaminated field or some contaminated things and people were getting sick from it. My question, I just want to ensure that if they are building the road with the same soil that was quote-unquote found contaminated, how much of effect could it have on residents' health 10, 20, 30, 50, 99 years from now?
It'll have the same effect that it has now. Based on the concentrations that have been present, it doesn't approach those levels that would be acceptable even if it were at the surface in uncovered circumstances. This is, what you've added to this is an engineering control. You've covered it now with a road. You could place other institutional controls on it that said if you're going to dig it up, you have to do the following things. It happens all the time, but I'm not a lawyer.
What if the water table rises? It's not going to wash that out into the water table?
Mr. Lawyer.
Malafato.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Now, I am concerned because from what I'm hearing here, the citizens want to have almost 95% chance, reassurance that there are not that it won't be any hazard to their health if we use that soil to the road. If we decide to let that soil to be used for the spine road, now you hear what the gentleman sitting back there have said in terms of what if it rises, what if, I don't know, what if it digs, what if it, how much can we say it's okay for them to understand what's happening now?
I have to rely on our expert, Dr. Teef. I have great faith in his knowledge and ability and opinion, which is why I recommended that he be hired in the first place. I mean, he's been doing this for a very long time. If there was a risk presented, we certainly would say so. Because when we set out to hire him, we decided to hire a consultant who was not involved in Biscayne Landing at all. I spoke, there are many, many environmental consultants who are good consultants who've had involvement with that site. So we brought someone in from Tallahassee who was completely, without any knowledge of this site, and he became educated, and you've heard his opinion. His opinion is there would be no health risk if we use the precautions that are recommended under pavement. I can't speak of, he can speak to the question if groundwater rose. The additional protection he mentioned, we call them institutional controls, is sometimes in properties that are contaminated, you place a deed restriction on the property, and it's in the public records, and you say you can never use the groundwater in this site in eternity, going forward, and that's a recorded restriction on the property, and that's another tool that's often used by environmental regulators, and that's something we might want to consider here, but it may actually be in place because of the fact that it's a former Superfund site, okay. and that protection might be there, and you also have that. As he said, there's a treatment system in place that captures the groundwater and prevents it from getting into Biscayne Bay. So bottom line is, you've heard Dr. Teef's testimony. His testimony was he believes there's a minimal risk, if any at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
what I think Councilman Bien-Aimé had a question first.
It's a concern, Madam Mayor, because we have two items on the agenda. We have G and we have H. It looks like we are discussing on both items. I think we should finish with one and then move to the second one, and because it's two different issues and two different items.
Well, as you heard Councilwoman Keys have just mentioned, they both should have been put at once. It was only under my request that we have separated them.
Exactly, and I agree.
They are indeed one item.
And with that,
Madam,
that we separate them.
Madam Cyril, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What I'm hearing as well from the audience is that in the agreement, we should mention if by any chance that Olita Partners sell their contract, for lack of better words, to another. What is it? Tenant?
Assign the
Another
contract?
developer assign the contract to another developer. They should be responsible for any wrongdoing to the citizens. So I think that it's something that we need to keep our eyes, or actually have in the contract. And although that the scientists mentioned that, which I very much in support of, because I have great respect for them for all that study that they did in the time that they put on the site. And they're not the first scientists that come before us to explain to us how minimize the effect will be on human life. So that's where I am right now. But yet again, in terms of a contract, I agree with, I think, Mr. Rowland and other constituent that concern also mentioned, if we decided to pass that item tonight, they would rather see, although that it doesn't have effect right now, but in 30, 40, or 50 years, we want to have a stipulation in the contract that mention whomever that the developer maybe should be responsible for if anything arises. So I think that should be an amendment to the contract that we'll be having if it passed tonight.
So you are asking the city, Madam Attorney?
So the lease provides that any successors take all the conditions that are on the site.
Yeah, but I think Mr. Willen was specific that if any, I would say, what is the word that I'm looking for?
If the people start working
go
funny.
ahead. Okay, if anything happened dealing with the dirt because of the health issues
because of dirt,
the new developer should be responsible.
Whoever is taking over the lease after 50 or 99 years should go along with the risk. What?
Yeah, the hazard. Yeah. So is that what you just mentioned to me, Madam City Attorney?
Yeah,
is
so
that what it means?
So we have an indemnification clause in the settlement agreement, and that relates back to the lease.
Okay.
So it's connected to the lease. However, we can create some additional language to provide the council additional security and peace of mind if the developer agrees that we will ensure that any and all risk be also passed down to any successors and interests as it relates to the fill and any liability as a result of damage. So I will be happy to have a conversation with the developer about that. But as I mentioned, the indemnification does relate back to the lease, so those assurances are in place.
A question. If you're going to go back and negotiate with the developer about the settlement, what about if we vote for it tonight and you go and discussing with them and they don't agree with that?
Well, as I mentioned, I believe that it is currently covered, but we can have, I certainly can, Mr. Tillman is making his way up, so perhaps he can advise to his position on that.
I believe that this language is very clear in the ground lease, the indemnification and the transfer of liability upon assignment. I mean, it's really already there. Maybe.
Well, in what? In that settlement?
It is in the lease, yes.
Yeah.
It is in the lease.
Okay, thank you. Madam Keys. Mr. Galvin?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm offended. I'm offended that staff would negotiate this. I'm offended that the developer would offer it. Our health, our citizens' health is not for sale. Not for 1 million, not for 2 million, not for 5 million. Take your money, go back home. Staff, shame on you for having brought this to us. I'm offended that you would even dare suggest that we would jeopardize the health of our citizens in return for money. I'll be voting no tonight.
You have it all wrong, Mr. Galvin. It's not what it is. When we brought this item after Mr. Wollen have found the meeting that took place at Durham, everybody understood what was happening, and we have had people come and testifying about it. I don't think it's the way you're putting it. it is so simple to do what you just did.
No, because
That's
it's
not
true.
what it is. That's
So-
not what it is.
so
On
no,
November
if
18,
you
we all
have-
agree. We all agree. It was 5-0 vote on November 18. It was a 5-0 vote. We all agree that we needed to have the developer to go ahead and pay for a separate study, independent expert that went on the field and came back with the results.
And I've
right
repeatedly
now-
and consistently said, no money in exchange for health. So
That's
I'm
not
saying
what
it
the
again.
money is for. This is
So-
why. This
all
is
right.
exactly why I have asked the city attorney to put it in two separate items, because I knew it was gonna come to this. It's not what it is for.
So
the
what,
money
Madam-
is. Let me repeat for you
Is
again.
for what?
The money is because Biscayne Lending or Leader Partners went and applied for a variance when they are the lessor, not the tenant. They are not the owner, and the city was supposed to do it. They went behind our back and asked for a variance.
So what's the $1
We
million
are-
for?
They are settling because we took them to court for taking our names without asking us first. This is what it is for. Not for the dirt, not for the soil. It's for using our names. This is what it is.
I respectfully disagree. I'll be strongly voting no on this. I'll strongly vote no on the next item. That's all I have to say. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Madam Steriel.